Welcome to my first PCT video, Pacific Crest Trail. It's 2019 and when I'm filming this right now, it is January 9th, and that means I am exactly 2 months from my jump off date on the Pacific Crest Trail, which is March 9th. Holy mackerel. It's coming up fast. So I figured, if any of you are going to be watching me put myself out there while I'm on the trail doing stuff like that, I should do like an introduction video. I'm going to do a couple of videos before I actually get on the trail. This is one. I'll do a couple more about some of the things I'm concerned about before I go. I'll do a couple that show the kind of gear I'm going to be carrying, and then in 2 months I will be actually out there, and eventually I'll be posting. Here I am on the trail. You'll be seeing the things that I'm seeing. So for this very first one, just an introduction. Hi, I'm Todd. Hey, how do you like me so far? I am 52 years old. I will be 53 by the time I hit the Pacific Crest Trail, because my birthday is March 2nd. So I will be 53 when I actually start the trail on March 9th. And my introduction to the Pacific Crest Trail came when I was a very young man. I went to, I told the story of my first backpacking trip, and in that story you kind of heard how I got roped into going to this summer camp called Exploring New Horizons, what we lovingly called ENH. So at that summer camp, we were doing our summer camp things when the staff introduced us at dinner time to these two guys that we didn't recognize. And what they were was they were Pacific Crest Trail hikers, and this is back in the 80s. So this is in the days before, a lot of the support that Pacific Crest Trail has now, as far as, there were trail angels back then, but the network was not there. So these guys were really doing it, hiking that Pacific Crest Trail back when it was holy mackerel. So the summer camp was up there by Soda Springs, close to the Donner Pass area and things. And so the trail goes right through there. And so in Soda Springs, some of the camp counselors had met these guys, and they offered them free dinner and lodging in the staff house for the night. They didn't let them sleep in the dorms and stuff where the kids were, but they could sleep where the staff members were overnight, in exchange for talking to all of us at camp, at the nightly campfire we had for camp, about the Pacific Crest Trail and the adventures they had had so far. So these guys did that, and let me tell you, as a young man, I was completely mesmerized. These guys were like gods. I could not believe it. I had already had my first taste of backpacking, and even though, if you'll see that episode of Hiker Homily, my first backpack trip was kind of a disaster, I was still smitten with backpacking and was amazed by backpacking, and the fact that these guys were doing backpacking for months in the wilderness, constantly just going from Mexico to Canada, just blew my young mind. I was absolutely amazed, and the seed was planted in my head on that time that was something I really wanted to do. Well, as life sometimes does, everything else always seems so important, especially when you're young. Some of the jobs I had back then, I think now, and it's like, how ridiculous. That job's a dime a dozen, literally. But at the time, it was so important. Oh my gosh, I can't do the Pacific Crest Trail because I've got this job that pays $10 an hour, doing this security work, and that's paying my bills and stuff. And how am I going to do this and get through, finish college, and do all these things were so important. And so the trail got put off, and then I get a career, and then I start a family, and I'm no regrets, love my family, I'm very close to them, but all that stuff was more important than the trail. So again, put off. So here we are. I'm 52 going on 53, finally retired. I was able to retire at the age of 50, and I looked around at the wasteland my body had become compared to when I was a young backpacker, and decided if I'm going to do it, I need to do it soon. Okay, I need to do it here in my early 50s because the older I get, the harder it's going to get. Yes, I know there are people on the trail who have done it at much older, decades older than me, in their 70s. I get that, but everybody's different. Just because one person can do it at 72 doesn't mean another person may be able to make it at 72. We're all different. We all have our different physical issues and makeups and stuff like that. And so for me, I really feel like I need to get it done now, or I'm just never going to get it done. So here we are at early 50 with the amazing support of my wife and my children. I am going to, and several friends have already stepped up and offered things. I've got one friend who's going to be picking me up at the airport. Jesse, thanks a lot, in San Diego, and getting me to the terminus to get me started. And his mom, who has known me since I was a kid, who is also living down in San Diego, has offered to help with resupply runs if I need it, things like that within San Diego County stuff. So, there's already people stepping up, and the support is amazing. It's touching. It's great. And so there we are. March 9th is my start date. And I want to be very clear about my intentions. I am starting this trail. I want to have a good time on this trail. I don't want to hurt myself. And so with that in mind, I am not putting the pressure on myself right off the bat that I have to do this many miles, crush them, and get to Canada, because that's not my goal. Right now, I am mentally committing myself to the desert section. Okay, I'm going to start at Campo, and I'm going to get as close to Kennedy Meadows, if not to Kennedy Meadows, as I can to make it convenient for anyone who's going to pick me up. And when I get there, I'll see what happens. If I get there and I really like thru-hiking and have decided, awesome, this is what I want to do, I want to keep doing this, my wife has already said she's behind it, that's cool, then I'll keep going. If the passes there are all frozen up, because we're looking at a big snow year, we've already had a big storm that's dumped all kinds of snow in the Sierras, and there's more coming. And we're only in January, so we're looking at a possible another snowpocalypse year. And so if I get there and decide I want to keep going, but there's too much snow in the Sierras, I'm just going to have somebody pick me up, and then I'll move up a little bit, and I'll do more of the trail. And then when the snow is out of the Sierras, I'll go back and I'll finish that section. I've seen several hikers do that, and no big deal. That's what I'll do. There's also the part that I have done a lot of the PCT in the Sierras already. When I was a young backpacker, most of my backpacking experience is the Sierras, and a lot of it was on that, because that's a great trail. It goes right through a lot of the Sierras, a lot of the picturesque stuff, and so we would use the Pacific Crest Trail a lot of the times on our backpacking trips in the Sierras. So I've already done a lot of that. I'll do it again when I'm doing the full trail, but it's not a priority. So committed to the desert, getting the desert section done, and then from there I'm going to see what's going to happen. And I think that will help take pressure off of me mentally. I'm going to talk about in another video some of the mental pressures that I am kind of mulling over or feeling. But for now, I think committing to the desert helps, because then I'm not committed to, I got to crush this many miles by this much time. I can go a little slower, which is more of a hiking pace for me. And if I get to a certain point where it's like, yeah, you're not going to make it to, okay, I'm not going to make it to Washington this year. I don't have anything to prove. It's another thing, full transparency. I'm not trying to prove anything really to anybody out there. I'm kind of putting it out there for fun, and hopefully you enjoy it. And those of you who can't do the trail, maybe, me and other YouTubers help you live vicariously through that. Those of you who have done the trail and are a little nostalgic, maybe that'll help with that. You're interested, you want to see how I do things, and either use me an example of what not to do or an example of how to do certain sections. Who knows? But that's why I'm kind of putting it out there. I'm not putting it out there to prove anything, and really there it is. So that's my little introduction. Pacific Crest Trail, March 9th. I'll be coming out with a couple of more videos where I'm going to talk about some of the issues that kind of weigh on my mind, both mentally and physically, and then I'll start talking about the gear that I'm going to be carrying, and then eventually I'll be out there. I'll be doing it. Finally, after decades of, man, that would be nice, I'm going to do it. So, PCT 2019, here we come. I'm Todd. Hope you'll come along with me.